Let's go to our panel now, Michael Kroger and Stephen Conroy. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Michael, the Teals have been voting pretty much as a team, really, across climate, across integrity. Today they split, and I'll tell you the way they voted here. Zoe Daniel, Monique Ryan voted with the government on the IR laws. Kate Chaney, Allegra Spender, Sophie Scomps, Helen Haynes, Rebecca Sharkey, Di Lee voted with the coalition against the workplace laws. So for the first time, we've seen a split within the Teal independents, Michael.
Well, and what it shows is that you've got two of the Victorian ones in Goldstein and Keong who should know better. I mean, why is there such a hurry with this legislation? What's the urgency? Why is it so desperately needed before Christmas? It's full of hundreds of amendments. No one quite understands it. I saw a leading academic in the paper this morning saying he couldn't explain it to anyone. He's an industrial relations academic. So how Monique Ryan and Zoe Daniel could have voted for this when academics in the industrial relations field with dozens of years of experience don't think they can explain it to people certainly worries you. And it just goes to show that in those two seats in particular, those members are, far more pro-Labor than they ever said they were. But it's good to see a split because we now start to see the real colours of the hard left Teals, and they're the two of the three are in Victoria.
Another independent wouldn't say, I don't think he describes himself as a Teal independent, but David Pocock really, Stephen, has the future of the laws in his hands if it's going to pass by Christmas at least.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, the Liberal Party, I saw your package before we came on air with Peter Dutton, frothing at the mouth. I mean, the Liberal Party have been attacking the government because they're doing nothing to help the cost of living. I'll tell you what will help the cost of living for most Australian workers, getting a pay rise. And this package will absolutely start to see pay rises flow through the system as you go forward. And for Mr Pocock, he's standing there between Australian workers getting a fair wage increase and holding them back, sticking them with their system, which has now failed for 10 years running under the Liberal Party. I mean, the current system is broken. People aren't getting wage rises. This system needs shaken up. And if Senator Pocock made the decision to oppose this or delay this, all he's doing is delaying putting dollars into people's pockets.
Let's look at the Victorian election campaign, Michael. Well, we're delighted that the two leaders have agreed to take part in at least one debate, that being the Sky News Herald Sun People's Forum. We're biased. Obviously, we believe it's the best format with the power in the hands of undecided voters, really. But it's going to be a key moment in this campaign as things seem to be tightening a little, Michael.
Yeah, they do. It's a very good thing that they're doing the Sky Forum. I've looked at those forums and I do think they're the best that I've seen. Look, things are tightening. The wind is blowing against the Andrews government. He's been too secretive and too manipulative for too long. People are very worried about 4 corruption investigations into him, all sorts of secrecy about a union donation that they got before the last election from the government or a payment to a union. Red shirts. There's so many unanswered questions in relation to Daniel Andrews and the electorate after 8 years going for a third term, which you usually get. But on this occasion, people are starting to think there's a whiff of something not right with Daniel Andrews, and the tide is swinging against him. And of course, the Liberals here don't have the problems we had in 14 and 18. Our federal friends didn't help Matthew Guy in 18 with the bullying allegations and the Turnbull leadership fiasco. And in 14, unfortunately, the budget didn't help Dennis Napthine. So this will be the first election where the state Liberals have had clean air for over a decade. So, Matthew Guy is closing in on Andrews bit by bit.
Stephen Conroy, what's your read on it? If Daniel Andrews is successful, it will continue an extraordinary run for Labor in power basically for a couple of decades, barring one term.
Yeah, look, the polls that I think 3 polls came out over the last 7 days since we last spoke, and all of them showed roughly the same thing, that Labor's vote is down from the last state election, which was historic highs, and the Liberal Party's vote is marginally up from its election position 4 years ago, and that put the primaries, roughly about level. And you'd have to say that the results could go down to the wire. Not that Matthew Guy could win the government, but that the Andrews government may lose enough seats to go into minority government in a coalition with maybe some Greens, maybe some Teals, maybe some other independents. So certainly Matthew Guy's been focused, and he deserves credit for being focused on the issues that are mattering to most Victorians. He's focused on healthcare. He's been talking about more schools. He's targeted some of those growth areas in Labor's traditional western suburbs, where Labor has been lagging a little bit behind on some commitments. So I think that Matthew Guy's, so far, since the debacles that he had a couple of months ago, he's been on message. Whether the people want to vote for him and will listen to him ultimately, that will play out over the next few weeks. But certainly if the Andrews government is complacent in any way, underestimates what's going on out there in Voterland, then they could be in for a little bit of a shock come election night.
It's going to be a fun night, both of you on our all-star panel, which I'm very much looking forward to. It'd be remiss of me if I didn't ask you about the big story of the last 24, 48 hours. Stephen, first to you, this setback for Donald Trump, really. There's no other way to see it, those midterms.
Yeah, look, I think some of the commentary says the big winner, the big Republican winner out of this midterms is not named Trump. Some of his candidates, he even blamed his wife today for convincing him to back Dr. Oz. For God's sake, this bloke is never responsible for his own actions any day of the week. But no, look, Trump was very much a loser. And to be fair, the tracking at the moment is that the Republicans will win the House still, narrowly, which will be a big disappointment. But Joe Biden is still going to struggle with a House of Reps that is hostile, impeaching his son, impeaching him. All of that hoopla will make Biden's life a bit of a misery. I suspect just because of the way the votes are falling in the last 24 hours, he might just hold on to the balance of power in the Senate, possibly with 50-50 again, possibly 51-49. So he'd be happy with that, but his daily life will be a misery as well. So Trump and Biden are probably the two losers out of this, and DeSantis absolutely is the clearest winner for the Republicans.
Clear winner, indeed. And Michael, Joe Hockey yesterday on our coverage was pretty clear that given the economic problems, 40-year high inflation, law and order problems, this should have been the Republicans wiping the field, but they haven't.
Look, it should have been, and I must say it was a fantastic coverage yesterday by you and Tom and Joe Hockey and the team in America. I was glued to the television all day. It was compelling viewing, so congratulations on that, Kieran. But it should have been a good win for the Republicans. And as Stephen said, the two losers were both Biden and Trump. Trump, because he's still going to announce on Tuesday he's running. I don't think he's got any other choice. He's come this far. He can't just fold his cards. So I think it's disappointing news to Republicans that I think it means harder for him to win the presidential election, and bad news to the Democrats because it might encourage Joe Biden to tell his advisors that he's actually popular after all and he can go again. And I don't think that's a good idea, right? Stephen's right. If DeSantis runs, he now clearly looks the winner, having increased his vote from 49 and a bit to 49 and a bit last time. He just won in 2018 to 60-40. He's at a massive endorsement down there in Florida and turn that into a red state. So bad news for Trump, bad news for Biden, but good news for DeSantis if he wants to run.
Michael Kroger, thank you. Thank you for the kind words on the coverage yesterday. Stephen Conroy, great to see you as well. See you next week.